Okay, there's a couple ways to go about ethos in this Wit and Wisdom from from Richard's Almanac. Okay, Ben Franklin himself, you could talk about that aspect and that would cover you a lot, right? Because he himself had credibility. He was a statesman, he was a good publisher. That's for sure what his audience would know. Okay, so you can talk about him and what a wonderful person he was and all of the things that he did that made him have credibility, and a good sense of ethics. He had people trusted him. They thought that what he said was true because he was a good person. Okay, that's a aspect that you could go with. The other aspect is, of course, Richard himself, which is the persona or just a character, a made up character who is supposed to have said all of these things in Poor Richard's Almanac. That's why it's called Poor Richard. Richard Saunders, he says all these smart things or all these great things. That's what this collection is sayings that Poor Richard made or was said to have said. Now, Ben Franklin made this whole thing up and he said, here's what Poor Richard says. Of course, it was him saying it. So you go with the Richard Saunders. Okay. The biggest thing you could do and the best would be to just look at the text itself, and it's on every page. Okay. So look, for example, on page 34. It says, in rivers and bad governments, the lightest things swim at the top. At the top. Okay. So that's an aspect of there's good government and bad government. That gives you a hint. But here's an even better one. Look at the towards the bottom. You may give a man an office, but you cannot give him discretion. This is in this text all the time. He's saying you need to have discretion to be a good person. And that's not the only character virtue that he's talking about. He gives you a lot of other ideas of how you can be a good person. Well, people who are telling you how to be a good person, they are thinking that it's important to be a good person. And Richard, like, you can just take this to the bank, had that reputation of being this just very cool, very kind, very upright and responsible person, right? That he had credibility. A lot of it built on what he said. You don't just say all this stuff. Of course, he could have been a hypocrite, but he was a made-up character, so it's almost hard to argue that. Okay, let's go. And besides, he did say these things. All right, let's go look at the top of page 35. Pardoning the bad is injuring the good. Okay, there's good and there's bad, and you want to be part of the good and you want to do the good thing. Okay, let's keep going. The goodwill of the governed will be starved if not fed by the good deeds of the governors. You have to be, if you're in a leadership position, you have to be a good person. Otherwise, it's going to wreck the population. They're going to be, this isn't working, right? And he's using this feeding idea. Okay, this is every page you see these elements of trying to be an ethical person, promoting good behavior. Okay, and look at this one. He that cannot obey, this is the next one down, cannot command. There's a virtue, obedience, or being able to obey. Now that's implied that then you can also command if you are good at that. So there's all these aspects of ethos or ethical behavior or being a good person, that type of thing that are in this, and you look really hard to find somebody besides Ben Franklin who said it and did it better, right, in American history. He is on the $100 bill. Okay, the full faith and credit of the United States government. That's a little bit of a stretch, but he himself had an ethical character and a good ethical behavior standard. So did Richard Saunders, the person that he created in the almanac that said all these sayings, and especially the sayings themselves are full of these ideas of here's how you're supposed to be. Okay, here's how he's talking about behavior and virtues like he said, obedience and diligence and hard work, especially now. These are just, this is America for you. All right, that should help you. Thanks.